anybody have any questions?
Hi, Suzanne.
Yeah.
Hello.
I was wondering if you could address the energy running high in the spine when it's like white or up in the higher values, and what other, I guess, areas we could look at to get a good sense of what's going on there.
Okay, so the higher the value, then the more, and the best way for me to describe it is when something is hyperactive, it means either it's trying to repair whatever organ it is, or that there's something else that's going on you know, on that more high spiritual level. So depending on the organ is how we would look at that, versus when an organ is weak or a chakra is weak, then we know that there is disruptions there. And the weaker the chakra or the organ is, then the more problematic that organ is. So when I see an organ that's gray, that ultimately is the weakest link. It's kind of like dead grass. That's the association that I make. Because when grass is dead, then obviously it's not lush, it's not green. And similarly, when an organ or a chakra is ultra weak, then there's not a lot of vitality. However, the good thing about grass, as soon as you water it, then what's going to happen is that grass will start turning green. And, you know, likewise, with an organ or a chakra, all of a sudden the life force becomes stronger. So the weaker a chakra, the weaker an organ, then the more it's going to cause havoc in regards to its relationship to its function. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. So when I see high spiritual colors in the spine or any organ, I always start asking questions like what's going on in that person's life in regards to that organ, you know, both on a physical and a psychological level, just to get that perspective of you know, what the possibilities are. So white in the spine can also mean a near-death experience, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, but it doesn't apply to everyone, and that's why, you know, it's helpful if you use your intuition, because then you'll get answers. And I always think about Danielle in our office. She had taken the Biopulsar training, this is several years ago, and she asked to borrow our Biopulsar system so she could, you know, assess her family. And she recalled me saying about white in the spine, and one of her girlfriends had white in the spine. And she said to her, this is really interesting because Suzanne, you know, mentioned in the class that white in the spine can mean a near-death experience. And the woman said, yes, I've had a near-death experience. And Danielle said, I've known you for so long. How come you've never mentioned this? And she goes, well, because people wouldn't understand what I'm trying to tell them with my experience. I don't want people to think I'm, you know, I'm out there because I've had this experience. So she never shared it with anyone, but that white in that spine represented that to this woman. White in the spine could also really mean, you know, really strong healing. So therefore, again, we'd have to look at why that healing energy is there. And the spine connects to our blood, our chi, you know, so again, we have to look at the possible reason behind that. When you look at the spine, it literally, it's your neural, all of a sudden I forgot the name, but your neural fluid that goes up from the base chakra up to the back of your head. That is that relationship to the spinal energy. So if that's disrupted, whether it's too low or too high, then that can cause havoc on a person's energy level.
The cerebral spinal fluid?
That's it. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you. So thumbs up if you guys are hearing me okay and that you're seeing the Biopulsar screen, because I want to make sure that you're seeing exactly what you saw last week. I thought we'd use the same picture because we've already talked about this person's aura. Now we're going to go more into the chakra analysis, and based on time, we'll you know, maybe do another scan, or you know, again, we'll see how far we can get with this. Whether I'm doing an aura reading, a chakra reading, or a health reading, it's easy for me to talk about that, you know, whatever I'm discussing with the client for an hour, because literally the chakra system corresponds to the organ weaknesses and therefore the organ colors. it all works simultaneously together. Okay, so we're just going to get started here. I'm going to mute everybody out, and you can unmute yourself if you have any questions when I pause for questions. Okay, so we're just going to move forward. So with this individual, we already know that this person's very spiritual minded, with the crown being 91, the brow being 93, the throat 51, the heart 55, solar plexus 58, sexual chakra, sacral chakra at 43, and the root chakra is 39. Because this person has a lot of energy in the brow and the crown, we understand that that has a lot to do with their governing personality. And I'm just going to refer to some sheets, and I'm not sure how I can make things not being backwards to you, but this sheet is your color and chakra profiling, which is not in any of your training material. This is something that I created more recently. And in here, it goes into the different combinations. So when we look at, you know, the brow and the crown chakra, we can see it's an intuitive-based energy, it's a visionary energy, and it is more feminine predominated. And another way we can look at things is if there's other emotional energy centers that correspond with that. And the reason why I say that it's dominated on a feminine level, the brow chakra is a feminine energy. Now, the crown chakra is literally unisex, and whatever leads it will be what it attaches to, meaning if the crown chakra is supporting the brow, and in this case the brow is 93, so it's higher than the crown at 91%, so the brow is leading the way, so the crown chakra will often then support well, in this case the crown chakra will support the indigo energy. And because the crown is unisex, it will convert more to a feminine energy to support the brow chakra. Does that make sense? Okay. And again, thumbs up or just give a nod. So, because again, I'll elaborate on anything that you guys need me to elaborate on. Now, because the brow and the crown are both very strong spiritual energies, then we know that that person is guided with their intuition, with their sensing abilities. Where on the root chakra level, the root chakra is 39, and it literally is more than half, which is indicating that that is a huge difference, because I'm always looking at what the number value difference is. And in this case, we're looking at 54%. That's a huge difference. That's 54 digits in between the highest and the lowest chakra. So we can understand that this person really doesn't understand their root chakra as well as they understand their higher chakras. And this is one of the things when you're doing a chakra analysis with the biopulsar, it's giving you things in a percentage format. It's not one of these fake meters that says, oh, your root chakra is strong or your crown chakra is weak. It's actually giving you a percentage format, because that diagnosis is giving a lot of ammunition as to the variables. So when you see a chakra that's twice as high as another one, where do you think the power is? It's obviously in the one that's the heaviest, versus the one that's the weakest is the one that is not being paid attention to. Which then takes us into another story. Why isn't it being paid attention to? And there can be a few reasons. One, it's being neglected because the person's never been taught what that chakra represents. And if we understand that every chakra has a series of functions, then we have to understand what the possibilities are for this client. And again, if we look at, you know, what the chakra represents in your training manual, then we can get some of the psychosomatic information in there. Plus, I've given you all chakra handouts. And I'm referring to Biopulsar owners because you guys are Biopulsar owners. I've given you chakra handouts as reports as well as single page handouts that instantly give you a lot of connection to that chakra. So that way you can ask a series of questions. But when you understand what chakra is weak, then in your binder, there's all these different questions or correlations that give you that ammunition, as well as I've got all kinds of sheets. And some of these are in your training manual. Some of them look a little different because as I made them into graphs, I made them a little bit more exciting with color. So with this one, one, if a chakra, the root chakra in this case, is under 40%, or if it's the weakest one, even though I put a number value on it, if it's the weakest chakra, then some of the questions are you finding that you're lacking inner strength and courage? Or do you have little motivation and drive? Do you feel tired in life? Because the lower the root chakra value, the more people will be tired of life. And, you know, we have that old saying that says the grass is greener on the other side. So sometimes people just get tired in life because in a way they've been defeated in so many areas of their life. But, you know, again, we have to encourage people to build up that root so they don't have, or in this case, build up the root chakra so they don't feel defeated. Because again, when people feel defeated, they don't want to live in this life because life is a struggle. And again, we have to understand that God put us in this physical body to have a physical experience. Nobody said it was always going to be easy. Okay, especially when you're off the beaten path, because when you're on the path, and I think we all understand that, when we're on the path, we have less challenges because the doors open, because literally we're moving in the direction that God intended us to. Whereas when we're not on the right path, then blockages come up and we always have decisions to make. And if we make the wrong decision, then sometimes we go down that rabbit hole. And again, things in life become a struggle. And the root chakra is our connection to our life dynamics, meaning everything to do with our life has to do with the root chakra. And when you don't take responsibility of your life, then that's again when these tragedies and traumas and dramas and everything can surface, because we're not on that right path, because we're not aligned with our root chakra. And we're all here for a mission, and that mission is maybe something we'll never understand, because sometimes our mission is just being kind to others, and kindness goes a long way. You know, I remember I went to my high school reunion, and it was a beautiful thing because this girl I went to school with came up with me, and she wasn't one of my friends in school. She was a cheerleader. I was a basketball player. You know, there was always, you know, the sports, the athletes against the cheerleaders kind of thing. But nonetheless, you know, she was a very lovely woman, but I didn't know her very well because she wasn't in my circle of friends. However, at our 25th reunion, she came up to me and she said, you know, Susanne, I just want to say thank you. Or she said, you know, Susie, in school, people knew me as Susie. She said, Susie, I just want to share with you, I was going through a really difficult time, and I was standing in the hallway and I was just feeling so down, and you came up to me and you said, whatever it is, it will get better. And it was something that, to me, I don't even remember this, but it was the act of kindness that obviously resonated with her, that she needed somebody to just say something to her and not ignore her. Or because we tend to do that if we're feeling sad or mad, people tend to avoid us because, again, we're not strong enough in our root chakra to deal with their stuff. And again, these are things that you'll notice when your root chakra is strong, you'll have the power. And I always think about certain things, you know, that I've been able to discover, you know, doing this work, because there's very few red people in society. 2% of people we've tested on the Biopulsar, as well as with our color energy psychology test, are what we call natural red people. 2% of the people we've tested, and the tests are worldwide. So therefore, it's not just privy to North America, but because 2% of the population are not what we call red people, you can understand we don't have a lot of good examples of red. And in fact, a lot of our correlation to red is to the negativity of red. And if we can understand the positivity of red, then we would understand why we need to connect with red, because red is about our passion in life. Red is about taking responsibility in life. You know, the root chakra has everything to do with what we manifest in this physical realm. And it starts with a creative idea that comes from our crown chakra. And as it works through all our chakra system, we actualize our dreams. So we have a new idea, we dream about it, we start communicating it in some form, whether we start planning it through our, you know, blue center in forms of words or writing. Then we, you know, make sure our family and friends are on board with what we want to do. Then we start using our yellow intelligence to start considering how we can manifest this. And then we become very, you know, enthusiastic about it, and we start living in the power of the now and using the tools at our disposal to start creating that reality. And when we actually land in the red, we can create it, because red is procreation. It's manifesting whatever we've seeded to now come to birth. Okay. And also this aligns with, you know, pregnancy, where when a woman gives birth, she expels a lot of root chakra energy. And this is why a lot of new mothers are, you know, experience depression after birth, because their root chakra is so depleted that they're having a difficult time being on this planet. And then they have this baby that's constantly needing red energy, because babies are in the survival mode, but it's the mother that helps the baby to survive until the baby can start walking and talking and you know, start feeding when it's given food. But at a young age, the mother has to do all this. And this is another reason why, you know, young mothers or new mothers have a difficult time, because their baby demands so much red. So if you're counseling anybody who's pregnant or just recently given birth or has young children, encourage them to use a lot of red, because often you will see that their root chakra sucks. So we need to give as much support as we can to new mothers. So this way, you know, again, they're going to, you know, not feel so disconnected and get depressed or, you know, other things. Okay. So other questions we can ask is if the person's grounded, or, you know, what kind of physical vitality do they have? Because when people are sick, likewise, their root chakra will be weak, and we'll also notice that, you know, they don't have that strength to fend off any illness. The way I look at it is that we have several layers that encompass our aura, and each one is called a different name. And again, one of the charts I've put a lot of this information on is our wonderful little color chakra chart here. And on here, it goes into the different planes of the chakra system. However, to make it easy, it literally goes from the violet color frequency right down to the red, which is the closest layer around our physical body. So when our root chakra is weak, that actually means our aura has shrunk, and literally it's trying to defend us. However, if there's a lot of outside influences, then that's when holes can penetrate into our physical body and create physical disharmony. So I tell everyone, if you're sick, it doesn't matter what chakra it's related to, you need to boost up your root chakra, because as soon as you strengthen your physical layer, which is that red connection, your aura can start to expand back outward. And so literally that's one of the things that you need to do to get your root chakra strong and healthy, is to feed it the red. But again, you can support this information by looking at the chakra flow and noting if the root chakra is the weakest. And again, the lower the root chakra, the more work they have to do. And because the root chakra is the most physical energy, it is like moving a mountain. It is the densest frequency. So literally it is the hardest to move. So for most people, it's the hardest one. And Paula, you are here, and I still remember your story when you came to visit me. Do you mind sharing? You're unmuted, so let's, oops, unmute. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Do you remember the story you told me?
No, I don't remember it. It's been too many years.
Okay, I will share it because I know it was you. Okay. But Paula was doing, when she first came to Canada through the training, your root chakra was the weakest. And I remember you telling me it took you years to rebuild your root chakra. And because you had the Biopulsar system, you could actually see what was influencing your root chakra. And I think you told me it took you 4 years to build up your root, and you actually became a raw foodist because you saw how that influenced your aura.
Right. I had been ill for many years, so my root was really, really low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I remember that story, Paula, so thank you for being here and affirming that. But for anybody who's got that low root chakra, again, we have to understand, because it is the densest frequency, it is the hardest to manipulate, and it takes the most effort on a physical level, where when it comes to the brow and the crown, it's a little bit easier to shift because it's more spiritual based. So if you work on an intuitive or spiritual level, as simple as praying or meditating, you will see your crown, your brown amplify in energy. But to get your root chakra going, you have to do physical things. And this is why often I will tell people, just by stamping your feet or bouncing on a reforming ball is enough to get your root chakra motivated. But you've got to understand, if you only do that, you know, bouncing on the ball or a reformer or jogging or stamping your feet in one spot for a few minutes, it may only boost your root chakra, you know, for 10 or 20 minutes, or if you're lucky, it could even do it for longer. But if you're detached from the root chakra, it's something that you have to do regularly. And this is why stamping your feet several times a day, it will be a lot more supportive for you than just stamping your feet for a couple minutes at that moment in time. And this again goes back to the fact, the more we use tools that are of the same vibration, the more that we will rev up whatever chakra it is to a higher level, and with greater likelihood it's going to stick. Because again, if the programming hasn't been broken, or if we look at why a chakra is weak, it's typically not just one thing, okay? Let's get realistic. If a chakra is weak, it's probably resultant of 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of programming. And the programmings can be similar in nature, but they can be slightly different. And so therefore, it's accumulative. And this is why the more we work on that deficient chakra, then the more we'll see those shifts happen. But even with myself, it took 2 years to get my throat chakra to stick into the 50s. And so therefore, we have to understand it can be years. And they say for every year that you've been sick in a chakra, whether it's emotional, mental, spiritual, or physical in nature, it will take 1 month to reverse. So if you have had that sickness for 10 or 20 years, be prepared for the fight to support that chakra for 2 years or longer before you'll see that shift. And again, we have to be realistic that, you know, things take time. I wish there was a magic pill that I could give everybody in the universe, you know, just as I'd like to give people superpowers, but that's not the realistic, you know, thing that we can do. It takes hard work. And again, hard work is what color? Red. What chakra? The root. So again, if we're disconnected, we're not going to be as motivated. We're not going to be as driven. We're not going to, or we're more likely to give up. But when your root chakra is strong, you've got that motivating power that will keep going and going and going like the ever-ready battery. My mantra for the root chakra is, I will do this. Okay, no matter what, I am prepared for the fight. But most people don't like to fight. A lot of people, especially if they're heart-based, will go, oh no, I can't argue. I have a perfect picture of a woman. Her whole chest area is this dark and dirty color. And when I started having a conversation with us, she actually said to me, I have never argued with anybody in my life. I've never argued with my ex-husband or my current husband. And I'm thinking to myself, well, it's because you're hanging on to all these emotions that literally have layered on your heart that, you know, you're unable to fight. And so therefore, again, imagine how it can cause conflict to other chakras when you're not prepared to have that fight, because there's nothing wrong with having an argument. Who said it's a bad thing to have an argument? But there's the right way to argue and the wrong way. And just so you know, when you're in your root chakra, your arguments will be very fair. Now, I'll share with you, Nikolai is a natural red person. So for any of you who have gotten to know him, you'll know he's a direct person. He doesn't candy coat anything. He can come off as, you know, sometimes maybe a little cocky or strong-willed or strong-minded, but that's because he's a natural red person. He's very confident in his decisions, but he's very much a realist. And, you know, I remember getting into an argument with him, and I actually started walking away, and he said to me, don't walk away. He said, but you're not fighting fair. You're bringing up many arguments at once when we started with one argument. So let's address one argument at a time. But because I'm a yellow, I'm like an elephant. I remember everything. So I will accumulate all these things in my mind, and eventually I'll just implode. Okay. And again, we have to understand that when you're blocking your feeling sensitivity and not addressing them, sometimes that can lead to anger. And so for myself, which is typical of a yellow, they'll remember all these different things in their life. And then when they do get angry, they bring up all this past stuff. So I started bringing up all these things that I was unhappy about, and he's going, okay, this is great, but let's address them one at a time. And what I learned is you have to fight one battle at a time, guys. Okay. Most people will try to fight several battles, and we have this awesome color energy program. And I know some of you have taken it. It's a home study program. And in there, you're asked to fight a battle of that color, that chakra center. And most people, when I read their battle, it's not one battle, it's many. And so therefore, they're thinking that the one battle has many dimensions to it, but it doesn't. A battle has one dimension, it's one problem. So if you have the battle of health, that's one color frequency you need to correct, and that is the root chakra, the red energy. Okay? No other battle is going to be won if you're not prepared to strengthen up your root chakra, which is your closest layer of protection to your physical body. And another thing I will tell you, you cannot give away your energy, nor can anybody steal your energy. You are 100% whole. However, you're the director, the master, and the captain of your chakra system, meaning if one chakra is strong, then it's your choice where you've deflated another one to make one excited. So when we look at this person, her root chakra is weak, but where did the energy go? It went to the crown and the brow chakra. So we can understand that this person has put a lot of emphasis into her imagination, into her spiritual connection, and not enough into what she can do, what she can manifest. So she's relying on spirit to do all the heavy lifting, and spirit is going, you know what, until you get back in your root chakra, until you take responsibility for your actions, then the universe may teach you lessons, and those lessons can be related to the crown or the brown. And those lessons can be such as having too many thoughts and ideas and not manifesting. It could be, you know, being unrealistic, becoming depressed because your brow chakra is too wide open. It could be becoming, you know, I know everything, but, you know, you become, what's that phrase where you're the jack of all trades, but the master of none, right? So all these other scenarios will come into your life to tell you that you need to focus on your root chakra. But if you're too stupid, you're not going to listen, and you're going to keep replaying what we call karma. Okay. And karma only means you're repeating the same thing over and over again until you get smart enough to realize what you're doing and break that habit. You can break any karmic habit, okay, or any karmic pattern. I truly believe this, that God presents these situations to you to learn from, but you have to take what's happening, put it into a color frequency. And in this case, we have the chakra diagnostic in the Biopulsar, and then be prepared for the fight in that chakra to get healed and to rebuild that chakra so your chakra flow is strong and healthy. And again, I want to reiterate that whatever chakra is your super strength is innate. It is natural to you. It's not that you have to focus on it, because you already can bring in the magic of that chakra without having to think it. Okay. I'm a natural yellow and violet. Do you think I have to practice that? Seriously? Do you think I have to practice that? Absolutely not. I am a natural researcher. I'm a natural scientist. I'm naturally inquisitive. I am connected and guided by spirit. I don't have to, you know, sit there and think about it. I just say, God, I need some answers, and I get them. God, I need to understand how I can process this, and I start processing. It's just natural to me. However, where I need to work And as I get older, I understand my root chakra is now one of the areas that I have to focus on, and my throat chakra, because that's where for, 45, 50 years of my life, it's been an area that I haven't developed in a natural way, because I wasn't given the tools at a young age to understand that. A lot of where I've gotten stronger in those chakras, and again, I'll clarify a few things, but specifically in my throat chakra has become stronger and more natural to me because I have been practicing to develop that energy center since I got the Biopulsar. Okay. And I have had the Biopulsar for 20 years, and the Biopulsar keeps me on track. And this is why I love this tool, because clients need to see this perspective continually, because it is so easy for us to forget about what we need to do. Okay. And again, if we look at stats, just so you know, most people will forget about something within 24 hours. And this is why when people come to you and you're giving them all this information, be aware if you give them too much, then you may cause a situation where they have learned so much that they forget most of it. This is why I often will focus on one chakra, one or two organs, maybe a third, depending on what's going on. Sometimes I may focus on a second chakra, but very rarely do I deviate from the basic simplicity of it, because daily there can be different chakra issues that we're having to contend with. So absolutely, you may need to shift your energy slightly to help you fight a battle of the day. However, if you know that you have a weak chakra that is constantly weaker, then what I want you to do is primarily focus on that until you can see it shift and change. So with myself, it took me 2 years to start seeing my throat chakra in the normal range, but it's something I still do a lot of. And in fact, just so you guys know, before we started today, I sprayed my throat with our blue chakra spiritual spray. And I actually put on some of our blue alchemy massage oil directly on my throat. So I use 2 tools to strengthen my throat chakra so my communication comes across clearly. And as you guys know, I'm very articulate in my method of communication. This is really important to me. So using blue tools before I do any kind of training courses is a must for me. Okay, but for you, it could be a totally different color. And I know a few of you who have come here to the training, I also related a story that I cannot teach if I wear violet color. So trust me trust me, you have to recognize how color empowers you, because I understand if I do too much violet before a class, I get disconnected and I don't teach the class very well. Okay, because I'm working too much on an intuitive level that I actually am not as physically connected to teach through my yellow intelligence. And to teach classes, it's helpful when you're in your solar plexus, because for one, you need to have a good ego to talk about your subject matter. You have to be confident enough. And remember, the solar plexus is about your self-confidence. It's not about your ego being egotistical. Again, that is a false belief that ego is wrong. God gave you an ego, and he gave you an ego to be confident in your choices. And that's what the ego can do, is it can make you a really good teacher because you're trusting the material that you're teaching. Okay, so again, when you understand what chakras are natural and what chakras you need to support, then you have to focus on supporting them. And it can be a life journey. I don't think I'll ever stop focusing on my throat chakra because of the damage that was done for so long. And likewise, because I understand that the root chakra naturally degrades, then I'm going to work on my red intelligence also for the rest of my life, because I want to be strong and healthy my whole life with minimal, if no physical problems as I age. But remember, if you age and your body starts to shut down, this is why you end up in problems. Okay, because when your physical body does not support your age, then again, you'll naturally start to feel the aches and pains of aging. And because we have the biopulsar, then we can understand what chakra we need to work on, as well as more specifically what organs are related to that chakra. And this is another thing that you need to study, is what organs relate to every chakra. Now, just to sort of give you reference in the graphs, you'll notice that the first few rows are more in relationship to the crown and brow chakra, was when you start hitting the mouth area, you know, into the armpit, you're in the blue area. And then from the upper arm, you know, down to the thymus, you're in the green center. And then from the stomach to sort of the lower digestive area, you're going from the yellow to the orange center. And then when we start hitting into the bladder area, we're going into the root chakra. So exactly how we see the organ positions in the graph, as well as how we see the organs positioned one under each other in the organ flow, is actually going from the top chakras to the lower chakras in perspective. So when you're doing an assessment, you know that when you're you know, working with the chakra flow, that when you're looking from the bottom of the feet up to the crown chakra, literally you are going from the root to the crown, from the red energy to the violet energy in nature. So the way AuraMed has presented everything is quite clever, just like the chakra flow that we're looking at here with the energy values in percentage format. Now, when we're looking at the chakra flow, similar to an organ value is based on a 3-digit number. The chakra flow is based on a 2-digit percentage. So on a scale of 0 to 100 is indicating the strength and the energy flow of the chakras. 0 being, you know, that chakra is extremely weak, obviously, versus at 100, it means it's very full. However, what we want to see is we want to see the chakra flow in between 60 and 70 as much as possible, because that will be illustrated by the aura showing lots of greens and turquoises, which is the neutral color and the color of balance. Okay. However, as we discussed last week in our last episode of, you know, analyzing the aura, if we see too much turquoise and too much, you know, blues or greens, then it's indicating an energy that is held very tightly, that could be caused through, you know, medication, drugs, and other possibilities. So I do like to see a few colors coming into the aura, because then I know you're living life, that, you know, you're showing some red, which is indicating passion, or maybe you're showing a little orange that is indicating that you're having fun in life, or yellow because, you know, you're able to use that analytical energy to be optimistic, or, you know, the green energy, of course, which is balance and neutral, you know, turquoise being that optimal energy, the energy is flowing nicely, or blue that you're open to, you know, communication with spirit, and indigo that you're being intuitive, or the violet energy that you're creative, or the pink energy you're doing service work, or you're kind in nature, to the white being that spiritual connection and, you know, being honest and pure. Okay. Now, of course, I've just kind of gone through the colors quite quickly, but again, you know, as you're doing readings, then you can pull from the information that you've been, you know, memorizing over the years. And you got to remember, I've been doing this for 20 years, guys, so I'm good at it, but I've been with color energy for 26. So it's 26 years I have dedicated my life to learning the color language, the language of the chakras, the language of light, you know, so you have to keep studying these things. And in fact, the color energy booklet, which is, I think, a 36-page booklet, something like that, I have read it probably 100 times. The color energy book, I've read at least a dozen times. The Biopulsar training manual, I wrote it and I've read it a dozen times, okay? If you haven't read the material over and over and over again, I challenge you to do this, because these booklets and books and manuals are filled with lots of information that you will never, ever memorize everything in it by reading it once. Okay, they say that you have to read something 12 to 13 times before you really understand the subject matter. So again, challenge yourself to read it over and over again. And what I do is I highlight what I think is most important for myself. or that I don't know, because a lot of this I may know, but the things I don't know, I highlight so I can go back and kind of reread them. And I do reread materials over and over and over again, because sometimes my yellow is a little slow in getting it. Okay, now if you have a lot of attachment to your violet, you'll be like this when it comes to, you know, being able to absorb the information. But because I'm often in my yellow, again, I need to really understand it in that mental level to get it on all levels, I guess. So, you know, again, often we're too quick with things, and red is ultimately your center of patience. Okay, so when you're too much in the yellow, I don't have enough time to reread this. Or in the violet, you could even say, I need to move on to the next thing. Okay, so all your chakras will sometimes get in the way of you needing to work on whatever chakra is weakest. Now, statistically, we know that the root chakra is the lowest chakra in 80% of people. Okay, now if we talk about coincidences, we also know that 70 to 80% of people are dehydrated. Okay, are you guys making the connection here with me? Perfect. Because we have to understand that there are things that impact our root chakra specifically. The root chakra is connected to, you know, how we eat, what we sleep, the amount of sunlight we get, literally everything that supports our physical vitality. And for the Biopulsar owners, I've given you, you know, my article on the basic essentials of life. So therefore you can read, you know, what are the basic essentials, because you have to memorize what these basic essentials are so you can guide people in how they can self-repair. Okay, because if people, for example, are not sleeping well, you see that their brow chakra, in this case, is at 93, you might surmise that they have a lot of visions in their dreams, that their brow chakra is too active, which means they may not be sleeping well because their pineal gland, which is connected to the brow, is being affected. When the brow chakra is heightened, it could either mean that you're sleeping poorly or you're sleeping soundly. So you have the two possibilities of sleep to the brow chakra, okay? So as we go through the chakras, I just want to tell you a little bit about each one. So this way, again, whether it's for yourself or whether, you know, you're working with a client, you know, having some indication of how you can assist them. And a lot of this is in your root or in your training manual. And again, a couple of the charts that I pulled up was chakra analysis, chakra profiling. Also the color energy, chakra color energy chart is filled with things. And if you're doing health diagnosis, one of the charts that I recently made is how your body rebuilds itself in 365 days. And I actually color coded what parts of the body are connected to the different chakras. So for example, on here, your adrenals will revive within 4 to 6 months when they're burned out. And I've highlighted it in red, so that way you can see the color chakra connection to the body part. I also have a few other charts where it'll teach you what essential oils work with what chakras, as well as the zones on the hand that correspond to the different chakras where people can apply essential oils. And I also have my chakra interpretation guide that gives you some quick questions you can ask the client. So there's a lot of support tools, and several of these charts are in your booklet or your training manual, as well as those are the charts that I referred to in one of my emails to you that you can purchase for your own support. And by the way, I referenced, I think it was 9 charts or 10 charts or 12 charts, 12, I can't remember now. I actually have over 15, I think 15 or 16. So I'm taking back what I said previously. If you want all the charts, I'll send you another email after today that will illustrate all the charts that are available. And I've put them together as a slightly different package. So if you want to get all the charts, okay? So moving forward, I think I talked quite a bit about the roots, so we'll just move on to the sexual chakra. Now, the sexual chakra is also referred to as the sacral center or the navel center. There's different names for the different chakras, which again is on the color energy chart that I showed you earlier, all the references. This is a great chart because it literally goes through so many subjects to do with colors and chakras and their relationship, as well as keywords, et cetera, et cetera. But the sacral chakra is your physical emotional center, meaning it has a lot to do with your emotions on that physical level. So when that center is weak, then again, you could be denying some of your emotions. It's also connected to your inner child and your ability to play in life, because you know, depending on what chakra is your strongest compared to your sacral center, you could be denying yourself, you know, having some joy in life. Because if, for example, you are very high on yellow, you could be very serious and sometimes forgetting to play because you're a workaholic, you know, versus, you know, somebody who is in connection with their brow center, they're very empathetic and they're more involved with other people's emotions and sensitivities rather than their own. So they'll put other people in front of themselves, where the sacral center, it's very much about living in the power of now and enjoying life to the fullest, which means you will pleasure yourself. And we're not just talking about sexually, we're talking about pleasuring yourself by eating foods that taste good, smelling flowers that smell wonderful, applying your body with oils and essences that evoke that, you know, sensory perception of that orange energy. Just being alive with life is literally about the sacral center. And again, if we look at the fact that a lot of people are void of life, then we have to understand, you know, that they have to be very connected to their lower chakras in order to really, you know, gain that appreciation of life. Okay, make sense? Okay, thumbs up if everything's going good. Awesome. Okay, when we get to the solar plexus center, that is your energy center that's connected to your mental abilities. It's your processing facilities such as deduction, rationalization. it's also connected to a lot of words that work with the word self. So self-independence, self-confidence, self-reliance. So I always think of self hyphen and another word. That's kind of, you know, that relationship. It's your ego energy, but it's your confidence of what you know. So therefore, again, it's a power station for learning abilities. And when we go to school, that center is activated. So often in children who are in school, you'll see that that will be one of the power stations because they're having to do homework. They're having to understand things. That capability of understanding things on a life level has a lot to do with your solar plexus chakra. Okay. The heart center, that's connected to your heartfelt emotions. So when we talk about things to do with family, friends, you know, just socializing, green people are often very, very social people. So again, it is that family, friends oriented kind of energy. It's the peacemaker, it's the balancer, it's the nurturer. Where the throat chakra governs our ability of communication. And communication comes in a lot of forms. So therefore, it could be the written word, it could be the spoken word, and it also connects to, you know, our ability to organize and plan. The brow center is our center of intuition. It's also our empathetic center. So people, like for example, in the case of this woman, her brow chakra is exploding. It is higher than her physical energy center. So she's got a good imagination. She's very connected to her empathy. However, that could cause her conflict because if we think of that empathetic energy, if the root chakra does not support it, then these people will feel very drained when they're around people who are imbalanced. And I remember in one of my earlier classes going back before you know, let's say 19, 20 years ago. I could probably estimate at the time because I remember where the class was held. It was one of our first offices. And we were in the office, and this woman, her brow center was exceedingly high on the biopulsar. And I said to her, I think you are getting sick because you are too empathetic. And her husband was in the training, and he actually said to her, I told you that you're being too empathetic and you're picking up on other people's illnesses. So people were actually walking out of her office feeling so much healthier and stronger, but she was actually taking on a lot of their symptoms because she was so empathetic, because her brow chakra was so high that literally she didn't have her root chakra protecting her. Okay. And so therefore, what was happening is her brow chakra was so strong, it was being sensitive to other people's, you know, situations, that her energy was in essence absorbing a lot of their crap. And this is why the root chakra, we have to work both energetically and physically to heal the root chakra. And I'll just touch on that for a second, because I believe we need to work with physicality as well as on the energy dynamics. And this is why color energy does what it does, because all our tools are energetic in source. Some are more cosmic driven than others. Any of our products that are alchemy have been charged super exponentially with, you know, sacred geometry, color frequency, you know, planetary alignment, you know, sound frequency, crystal frequency. So it's charged multidimensionally from all these cosmic sources, where products that expire, that have an expiry date, are what I call earth energy tools. So earth energy tools will tend to work physically until the physical body is stronger, that then it can penetrate outwards to the auric field, versus cosmic tools, alchemy tools, will work energetically first on the aura, which then strengthen the aura back into the physical body. Okay, so it's always good to work with multidimensional tools that will reinforce our thoughts and our capabilities of action. And again, if we understand that somebody's low in the root chakra, then they're not going to have the drive and determination to stick to anything. So therefore, they may try a new protocol once or twice for a day or two. Maybe if we're lucky, they'll try it for a week or two, but they'll give up. Whereas when your root chakra is strong, you will be prepared to work for infinity to get it right. Okay, so therefore, again, that's another reason why we need to help people prepare with their root chakra and have them doing root chakra homework till they get their root chakra strong enough that they can support their other energy centers. So going back to the brow chakra, we know it's a very empathetic energy, one that's very sensitive. And people who are very high in the brow chakra will often have issues around light, because the brow chakra likes darkness. This is why a lot of people who are connected to their indigo intelligence will actually do a lot of work at night. So if you're a night owl, you'll probably be more attached to your brow center, versus if you're stronger in one of your lower chakras, then you'll be more of a morning person. Okay, so Nikolai is the ultimate morning person because he rises with that red flame of sunrise. Versus if you're more of an evening person, then you work more with those night energies of the blues, the indigos, and the violets. Okay, and that's why when you need more power in the morning, work with red, orange, and yellow tools. That will actually get you more revved up in the morning, versus if you try working with, you know, the higher energy colors of blue, indigo, or violet, that can actually put you to sleep. Okay, and you certainly don't want that in the middle of your day. And you always know that your root chakra is weak when midday you start getting tired, where all of a sudden your eyes start rolling and you have a hard time, you know, focusing. But when your root chakra is strong, you'll be like the ever-ready battery where you can go the whole day. So I always know when my root chakra is weak, when I start getting tired mid-afternoon. Now, there's tools that we can do to also energize our energy. So I have a drawer full of nuts. So if I feel that I need a little bit of red power, I'll eat a handful of nuts, because nuts are red energy. Okay, it's protein. And protein is attached to the red energy. And again, on the chakra homework sheets that I've given you, as well as on that chart, it teaches you about the different associations to foods, you know, the orange being liquid and, you know, the yellow being your fiber. But anyways, there's so much information on that's in your training manual, as well as the different charts. Okay, and the crown chakra is connected to the violet intelligence, and it has a lot to do with your brain capabilities. It's also your energy center of intuition. People who are connected to the crown chakra will be highly inspired. However, again, if the chakra is exceedingly high, then these are people that have a hard time holding a thought. And you got to remember, there's a perception of others versus yourself. And what I mean by that is you'll always see your energy from your own color intelligence center. It's easy for me to analyze myself through my yellow energy as well as my crown chakra, my violet intelligence. However, how other people see me may be different because of the fact they're seeing me from their energy perspective. And this is why sometimes energies will butt heads, because if you have somebody like a red person who is trying to communicate to somebody who is a violet person, they're talking two different languages. But through the language of light, which is color, we can understand people better, because it's not about a right or wrong. But if I know I'm talking to somebody who's a red, like Nikolai, I will talk in different terminology than if I'm talking to somebody who's a natural orange person. And because you're doing the chakra values on the biopulsar, that gives you indication how people are thinking through their chakras. So this person, I had to talk about, you know, their energy through, you know, words like, I know you understand this on a deep level. I know that, you know, you understand this, or, you know, you're feeling this through your crown and your brow chakra. Because if I start talking to them about the reality of things, they may not get it as well as when I'm talking through their higher intelligence centers, which are active and strong. Does that make sense? Okay, thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so when we're analyzing the chakras, we're putting together pieces of the puzzle by taking the highest and the lowest. So when the root chakra is lowest, then again, you understand that, you know, another energy center is going to be their superpower. And in this case, the person's empathy, as well as they're top heavy with their spiritual values. So they're going to put more emphasis in regards to, you know, keeping those strong. And if you recall last week, I mentioned that this woman was very psychic, worked as a nurse in a hospital, and actually helped dead people transition to the white light. So therefore that was her calling, but you can see from the root chakra being weak, you know, it was interfering with possibly her accomplishing things in life, because she put more value doing her work than maybe valuing what she wanted in life. And sometimes, especially people who are high in the brow chakra, they put little value on, for example, the home. A lot of indigos don't have a home. And this is why you see homeless people on the street, because once they disconnect from the physical reality, often the indigo comes very strong with homeless people because they don't have a home and they're barely surviving on this planet. And of course, by doing drugs and alcohol, it just exacerbates that. And for a lot of people who are homeless, they will have a lot of symptoms of imbalanced brow chakra. Okay, schizophrenia, depression, you know, suicidal tendencies, self-destruction. These are all symptoms of too high brow chakra. Okay, and that's another thing that we have to look at. I briefly went through the chakras more based on some of the psychological aspect of the chakras, but you also have the physical connection. And this is where, when you're looking at the graphs or you're looking at the numerical values, you know, of the organs, you know, through the Biopulsar XL export feature, then you can also get a better picture of what chakras are stronger or higher, resultant of the strength in the various organs. So you can see here what's pulling her root chakra down is definitely a low hip. We can also see that her adrenals are 3.49, which is indicating that her adrenals are fatigued, which means she doesn't have the power to fight. And indigo energy is the center of flight and fright. Fight is root chakra. But if your adrenals are low, you don't have the power to fight. Okay? Now, I'm just going to have a sip of my herbal tea that I have lemons cut up in. So a lot of beautiful yellow energy to help me answer any questions after. Boy, I was thirsty there, talking a lot. And remember, when you talk a lot, you have a lot of oxygen coming into your mouth, and so therefore your mouth will become dehydrated. So people who are low in the throat chakra, that could be a result that they talk a lot. And a lot of blue people are connected to communication, so they will pick industries where they talk a lot, such as in marketing, television, or media, you know, other things where they're actually having to communicate a lot. And when you take the color course, and if you guys come here ever for training, these are some of the things that we have more time to go through, is talking about professions that are connected to the color, certain antics that are stronger in the different personality traits. Again, this is just sort of like a quick you know, synopsis of how we relate to the energy flow. But going back to the root chakra, we can see that there are a couple organs and glands that are pulling the energy down in the root. And likewise, in the sexual chakra, we can see that some of the water organs are also low. So from the ureter to the kidney, the urethra are in the low side of normal, where the values are under 5. And that would pull the sexual chakra down in frequency as well. Okay, so we can deduce that correlation. And again, this is something that's so phenomenal about the biopulsar, because we're the only technology that actually shows the physicality connection to the chakra flow. And again, when we're looking at the chakras, we have to break each chakra down into quadrants. And these quadrants relate to, you know, what on a physical level is causing that chakra to be weak. And in this case, we can see the root chakra is weak because of the hip as well as the adrenals. And, you know, we understand that, you know, because she's high in the brow and the crown, that, you know, her emphasis is on the spirituality of her intuition and her capability of maybe channeling, or, you know, again, helping people pass to the light in her profession, you know, versus if she was stronger in the root chakra, she would put an emphasis on actually actualizing her spirituality on a physical level. Okay, because I always say God put you in a physical body to have a physical experience, but when the root chakra is weak, you may not be fully actualizing all these experiences to the level that you can, because you might be avoiding certain situations. You know, a lot of times, for example, indigo people, and in this case, she's an indigo person, indigo people are always looking for their soulmate, their soul friends, soul people, soul tribe. But that can cause conflict, because sometimes maybe the universe wants them to partner with somebody who is more earth, you know, more of an earth person, you know, in their lower chakras, so they can learn how to balance their higher chakras. But they'll be avoiding these people, because for an indigo person to partner with a red person, it doesn't happen too often, because they're the realist. They want somebody who's a dreamer like them, right? So they're going to be looking for that soulmate that has that high indigo energy, so they can talk about all these things that relate to soul, right? They want to know the deeper meaning of life, and they don't think that the red person is the right person that can talk about these subject matters. But they're actually a perfect person for them to talk about these subject matters. Okay, because they're the realist. They understand people from the multi-dimensions, you know, where that indigo person is always going to be wanting to connect with people who are just interested in the same topics as them. Just saying. right? So we have to look at these different possibilities of combinations. And that's why, you know, a perfect person for somebody who's high in the brow chakra would be more the red realist, or that orange child who's living in the present moment. And when I say orange child, I mean orange adult that wants to have fun in life and will take this person who has that high indigo energy, you know, traveling around the world, because the natural indigo might go, oh, I don't want to travel because, you know, I don't speak the language, or, you know, I don't know enough about that culture. They'll go into that fear, where that orange person is going, screw having to know the language. We'll figure it out. We could do body language. We can point to things. We could, you know, somehow we'll figure it out, right? Because when the lower chakras are strong, again, they are the survivors. They'll figure it out. But when your head's in the clouds of the crown and the crown and the brow chakra, then you become the unrealistic person. Okay, so again, it's all about the energy flow. And if this person can feed their root and their, you know, their sacral center with more red and the orange, then they're not going to lose power in the crown or brow, but rather they'll feel more in balance. They're going to feel more in the present. They're going to feel more in life. And that's what we have to encourage people to do, is attach to the characteristics of that chakra so they can balance their life. Because even with myself, my orange, I have to keep checking in with it. And we discussed this in one of the other classes, where I was mentioning that sometimes, you know, I take things seriously because I'm a workaholic. I love what I do, but sometimes I have to take a break and totally, you know, just zone out. So I will take holidays, guys. You know, I love to travel. My passion is seeing the world, you know, experiencing life more from that orange energy. So we have to, you know, give kudos to our different chakras and make sure we don't neglect them, you know, and that goes for ourselves as well as our clients. But the best way we can teach our clients is through our own experiences. And this is why I love our color energy, you know, foundation course, because you're taken through your different color intelligence centers, and you literally have to play with each center, you know, a minimum a week at a time, undisturbed, meaning every day you have to inundate yourself with a color. But this is what we need people to do when they are weak in a chakra center anyways, is make sure that they're bringing up the energy of that chakra by living and breathing and becoming that energy. And that's one way you become attached more to that energy, by pretending to be that type of energy personality. I wouldn't understand the red energy if I didn't go into my red and express my passion and my excitement of my red chakra. Okay, so we have to do these things. We have to play games, actually, to sometimes excite a chakra center, because again, if we're not relaying to that chakra and how it exhibits itself, you know, and here's another example, blue people. You know, again, I'm strong in my blue, so I get this, but because I have yellow and violet, I can be very animated and, you know, very optimistic in the way I describe things. But a blue person is the ultimate dry teacher. When they're too much in their blue, they'll be going, okay, class, this is what we're going to be talking about today. And what I'm going to be teaching is these subjects, and it's going to be in this structure and in this order, versus, you know, a teacher who works from a different energy center will be using, you know, the different energies of the colors. So this is one of the things that's also important, you know, for a teacher, is to be able to excite the students of the different colors. And that's why also as a counselor, you have to be talking in the client's language. So as soon as you understand what chakra is highest, right there, you can start talking in the language that the client needs to learn from, but also engaging them to understand that whatever is their weakest link, whatever is their weakest chakra, they need to focus on that, because that is where their life learning is going to keep replaying itself, as well as whatever chakra is highest. In a way, whatever is lowest, you're going to learn life lessons, and whatever is too high, you're going to learn life lessons, because that's how you'll be able to create the balance, taking something that's always happening to you because that chakra is so strong, and bringing it back down to a healthy neutral state, versus if something is weak, you need to heighten it to bring it to a stronger level so you can actually, again, break those karmic, you know, so-called patterns that are replaying themselves. Okay, because again, we'll attract what we're strong in and we'll attract what we're weak in. Kind of works twofold. Okay, and the only way we can fight the fight is by knowing what the color attachment to, because then we can raise that vibration to resonate the frequency to help heal that chakra. Make sense? Awesome. Okay, so we're just over an hour, so I'm going to open this up to conversation. Okay, questions?
Suzanne, I have a question. I had the occasion to work with a psychotherapist who sent one of her patients to me.
Right.
And the young lady that I worked with, she was surrounded in white. I mean, totally white.
Right.
But directly from the middle of her forehead was the darkest gray I have ever seen on anybody that I put on the machine. And after I worked with her and I did some treatments on her, some color treatments and everything on her, her mother came to me one day. She said, you know, I never thought she would ever get better. But she said, she's so excited about this color thing that you tell her about. And, you know, because I explained to her that her mother was very excited because her mother said I had gotten her interested into a color thing. And now everything that she was interested in was color. So she started feeling better. She was on a lot of medication when I first started seeing her. And one of the reasons was she thought she was Oprah Winfrey's best friend, and she and Oprah had a quote unquote sexual relationship. So my working with her with color seemed, her mother said, made all of the difference in the world, because then almost everything she did, she related it to a color.
And you're absolutely right. I worked with somebody else who was very delusional, and one of the things that this person said to me afterwards is, I now understand how important the red is, because if I'm not in my body, then I lose contact with reality. And again, this has something to tell us that when the root chakra is weak, and the weaker it is, then we are losing contact with reality. We may think through whatever energy center is heightened that we are here. But again, when you start asking other people their perception, so for example, with people who do have a high a high brow or crown chakra, they're thinking at the speed of light. And people who are strong in the brow are very telepathic, and they often think that they've told people things, but they haven't. They're trying to communicate telepathically, but the person on the receiving end is going like, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense, because you're missing parts of the story that you're expressing when you're so high in the brow chakra. And again, sometimes you'll they may not be the characteristics that you exhibit if you're a high brow chakra, because you've learned how to balance it. But there'll be other areas that might be unbalanced that you're not understanding, but other people see in you. So often when people are high in the brow and the crown, I'll tell them, this is what I'm sensing, and probably other people are too. So therefore, you have to understand it's what other people are perceiving of you, not what you think. Okay? Because the people who are strong in the crown and the brow chakra will often think that they're great communicators, but they're not. Perfect. Another thing I'm going to be launching is doing a online color energy 101 workshop, which I will be doing on a Tuesday. So August 4th of 2020. I will be doing a free workshop on color energy 101. So I'll let you guys know about that. So if you want to sign up, you'll be able to do that. And So what we can do, it looks like organ diagnosis has won out. So what we can do is next week go back to organ diagnosis, and I'll bring up another picture and we'll just continue to go through, you know, the organ diagnostics. However, what would be helpful for me is if you want me to focus on anything specific, because we could talk about how we can heal the organs. We can talk about more about related symptoms of the organs. So there's a few different things that we can talk about. So I'll let you guys indicate to me what you think would be really, really important. So any final questions? Otherwise, then we'll just tune out.